Deanna Anderson with Earl May Garden Centers, here with the Iowa Food and Family Project as part of their virtual learning series. And the Iowa Food and Family Project asked me to do a quick video on planting vegetables in small spaces like your containers or raised garden beds. Really, we have seen just a huge increase in interest in vegetable gardening and herb gardening this season. So we thought it would be a good idea just to give you guys a few tips and tricks that you can use if planting on your own. So the first thing that you want to consider is your site selection. Whether you're doing a raised bed or an in-ground garden bed or just on your patio, it is important that most vegetables require at least a minimum of 6 hours of sunlight a day. So you want to make sure wherever you're going to place your items that you have them in an area that's going to get enough sunlight. Then you're going to want to think about what you're going to need for prep, what supplies you're going to need. So when we're planting in a container, we want something that's going to be big enough to hold everything. So at least 16 inches in diameter for a container to hold a tomato plant or a pepper plant. So that's something to consider. Herbs, you can go in window boxes. You can get several herbs in a planter this size here. And then also you can do strawberries in containers as well. So make sure you have a big enough container to hold those. They work well in hanging baskets. They do send out little runners, so you want to make sure that you can give them space to do that. Then the next thing you're going to do is think about your plant selection. So you want to make sure that when you're selecting a plant that you pick something that's very healthy. It's not, you're not seeing any signs of insect or disease on the plant. It's a nice healthy green. If it's a tomato plant, you want to make sure it's got a nice sturdy stalk or stem on it as well. There's some things to think about when planting in containers about what can go in there and what can't. You can plant vegetable seeds. Certain vegetable seeds will work well in container gardenings. Your lettuces, spinach, even radishes will work well in a container. There's some bush type cucumbers that you can use. And then of course you can do tomatoes and peppers as well. Sometimes it's better to choose a bush type, but if you have a large enough container and use something like a tomato cage to help stake it, you can plant a normal regular variety of tomato in there as well. Things like sweet corn and green beans, those are really meant for an in-ground garden or a raised garden bed. So just be wary and think about those things when you're getting ready to plant. So I'm just going to do a quick planting demonstration here. So this is one of our Heartland Natural tomato plants that we have at Earl May. It's exclusive to us. It's grown in an all-natural core pot and using all-natural planting practices. So when you get this, if you want to stick with that all-natural theme, you want to come into an all-natural planting mix, and then you fill your pot, and you want to fill your pot fairly about 2/3, a little bit more full of soil. And the nice thing about our Heartland Natural vegetables is you can see here, my dirty hands have kind of gotten this, have covered these up, but you'll see the roots are already starting to come through these pots, or through the pot here. So you want to take your tomato plant and just dig a hole in the center of this container, and you want to plant all the way down. Now you can, on a tomato, one of the unique things about them is that you can plant them fairly deep and they will develop roots all along the stem to make it a healthier plant. So if you're going to do that, you want to pinch off the lower leaves to help prevent disease and just toss those to the side. And you can be fairly aggressive and pinch those off so you have a nice stem, and then you want to plant all the way down. Now I do want to mention before, soil is really important, and so we like to amend our soil with Structure Soil Conditioner. This is an all-natural product, and it helps with, if you're using it in the ground, it helps aerate your soil and break up especially heavy clay soil. It's also good for moisture control. So you just sprinkle that in and then just kind of incorporate that into the soil. Then make your space and then plant your tomato deep. Now with the Heartland Natural, you want to make sure that you cover up that entire core pot. If you leave some of that core sticking out, it will wick the moisture away. So you want to make sure to trim that low enough so the core pot is underneath your soil. So you just plant it down, bury it, try to keep the soil off the leaves above this, and then just kind of firm it in. And then the next really important step is to water your plants this is a mixture of our Earl May plant start, which is a root stimulant that helps get tomatoes and peppers and even your really with your shrubs and your trees, anything that you're going to plant. It helps with transplant shock. It helps get those roots developed really nicely. So then you're just going to water your tomato plant in. Now it's really important as you go throughout the season that when you water, we recommend that you water in the morning. That way it allows the moisture to evaporate off of it allows the moisture to evaporate off the leaves to help prevent disease and fungus. So it's that simple. It's a great thing to do with your kids. They love planting and digging in the dirt. So tomatoes are a great start. Pepper plants are another great thing to plant with your kids. Tomatoes, one of the things that you want to watch for is sometimes in between the leaves, you'll see little tiny leaves start to develop. You can simply go in there and pinch those out, and that will give you a healthier plant. So next I'm going to talk about strawberries. And again, we want to do the same thing with our strawberries that we do with our tomatoes. Now, if you're not using one of our exclusive Heartland Natural varieties of the tomato plant, you want to make sure that you really get in there and loosen up the roots just a little bit. And I'll show you how to do that. And again, I have my soil here in this pot. I'm going to add a little bit of structure to it. And just mix that, incorporate that in. The best gardening tools are your hands, just like cooking. And then really for containers, what we recommend is the ever-bearing variety. These will give you a few strawberries at a time throughout the growing season. Your June-bearing strawberry plants are the ones that you want to use for like a raised bed or in the ground, and that gives you a mass amount of strawberries in June, like the name suggests. So, but if you want a few strawberries throughout the year, use the ever-bearing. The May Sweet is the variety that we carry. It's exclusive to us. And then you want to just like the tomatoes, you want to bury that strawberry plant right in. And strawberries, here you can see the healthy roots. You just go in there and just kind of loosen those up just a little bit, which will help the roots expand down into your soil. And then you will just spread these out throughout the container. Again, water them in with the Earl May plant start, and you'll have another fun activity for your kids. They'll love going out there. You'll see our strawberry plants are already starting to have blooms on them. Everywhere there's a bloom means that there's going to be a strawberry. And the last thing I want to talk to you about, and one of the things that have become so important and so popular over the last few years, is herb gardening. So you can really plant herbs all year long. You can use them indoors. You can plant them as almost like a house plant. Use them for culinary purposes in a windowsill, or just make sure they have plenty of light. Again, when you plant herbs, pick your favorite kinds. There are certain herbs that you want to make sure that you're planting together. Some herbs might take over, like mint, for instance. You might want to put that in a separate, smaller pot, just because it will have a tendency to take over what you're doing. But again, I'm just coming in here, lightly roughing up those roots just a little bit, coming in with my soil, and then burying that down. And you can plant this size pot that I have here. About 3 herbs would fit in here nicely, and would give you enough space to grow. There are all sorts of containers and things that you can use to plant in. Just make sure that you have something with that allows good drainage, because your plants don't want to just be sitting in water. So that's really important. And then you want to watch your plants too. throughout the year or throughout the growing season to make sure they're getting enough water, not too much. So if they're in a pot, they'll require more moisture than if they're in the ground. So just kind of keep an eye on that. But there's another fun activity that you can do with your kids, or as we're all staying home and practicing our social distancing. We're open. Our garden centers are open. We'll be happy to answer any more of your questions. And there's also some great tips and tricks on the IowaFoodandFamily.com website.